What's up, guys? Chimp here with another very quick market update, and it's been a couple days since I posted one of these. I've been on the road, so finally got back home and had some time to actually, talk a bit about markets here. And so here we are, Bitcoin Bitcoin's trading at 115.5. And before I talk about leverage and, all the other stuff that I normally talk about, I want to just first start by talking about, you know, who is left to buy? That's sort of the real question. And let's start with the Treasury companies because they're clearly out of steam. Like, I'm going to show you a couple examples. Saylor announced this MNAV guidance, um, and within like within like a week or two, he had to change it, right? Because his like Ponzi is predicated on him issuing these shares and buying more Bitcoin and continuing this thing, which is why like ultimately MicroStrategy shareholders are totally screwed. If you do this is an aside, but if you do the math and you take MicroStrategy's convertible debt and, what they would owe in terms of a capital structure on the preferred, their MNAV should be trading like significantly below one. And so the fact they're still over one, like they're just going to screw the shareholders, right? And so the fact they have to change this immediately just shows like how fragile their Ponzi is. And like this wasn't even the most embarrassing one. The most embarrassing one was the Metaplanet CEO posting an apology letter basically to his shareholders, right? Like this is like, it's clear as day the Ponzi is collapsing. And I always say this, you need panic sellers to sell at the lows, right? We had that at 3K in 2018. We had that at the FTX lows, like forced sellers who just had to sell under any circumstance. And we, at the highs, we've had these panic buyers. I want to pull up something actually right now. I can. On CoinGlass. Because it relates to the Treasury. So people used to always talk about, hey, the Treasuries, they own all this. Well, people will say like, hey, here we go. I think I pulled it up. Okay, here we go. The people would say, sorry, hey, the Treasuries own all of this Bitcoin. They're under no obligation to sell, so that supply is pulled out, which is bullish. Which, again, overall, I'd agree with you, but I want to show a historical example of when we've seen that, and that hasn't, helped the cause, which is GBTC. We had a lot of money pile into this GBTC trade in 2021. And granted, like Bitcoin ended up actually legging higher. Like when you look at what GBTC topped, it was basically that 42K level. And then we had like the Tesla buying and then like the second wave of like retail mania with like stimulus checks going out and whatnot. So we ended up getting like a significant leg higher. But the GBTC absorbed all this supply and we still dumped from 65 back down to, as low as 29 or so. So to me, when I look at like, hey, the treasuries have absorbed supply, yeah, I think that's bullish for now. But at the end of the day, these guys could end up being sellers, right? And that is a concern. Um, Again, you look at the ETFs, right? Like, not talking about moving away from the treasuries and just talking about the ETFs. Like, let's look at um, the ETF flows, right? Despite the fact stocks have been sort of up only, like right near their range highs, and let me see what the Nasdaq's trading at. Yeah, the Nasdaq's trading at literally like a percentage or so off its highs. Um, ETFs are just slowed down, right? Now, I think an environment where stocks are going up only is bullish for Bitcoin. Like, not bullish, right? It's a more bullish backdrop, but that doesn't mean that Bitcoin can't pull back. In fact, people should go back, and again, this is like it's a bit of a troll chart I made for Twitter. Um, People should go back and look at when we dumped from 65K to 30K. Stocks were up only. Stocks only ended up topping like actually when you look at when stocks top, like I'm just gonna draw like a line. They basically topped here on Bitcoin. That's when the Nasdaq topped, and then it started going down. But in that time period, look at all the chop that we experienced, right? Bitcoin went from 65 to 30. It went all the way back up, and then it came back right back down, right? So you could have pockets of leverage and froth and mania and speculation and reflexivity in a market, and people can give you whatever excuse they want. At the end of the day, like to me, what I'm thinking is logically, like who is left to buy? The treasuries aren't buying, the ETFs aren't particularly buying, so who's left to buy? You know, rich Saudi sheikhs, you know, sovereign wealth funds. I mean, maybe like again, like you're relying on something that's like an edge case, and okay, like let's say they buy, right? Then who's left to buy? Absolutely no one, right? So again, like you're kind of running out of buyers here, in my opinion, and that's why like let's okay before I talk about Bitcoin and what I think it's going to do, let's just look at two other data points. One is the leverage situation. So, the good news is global open interest went down from 114 to 100. That's overall a pretty good sign. And but again, like when we were at these exact same prices, it was at 88, right? So where we're trading at now versus where we were like 2 weeks ago versus where we were, like, Bitcoin was obviously like 5% off these levels, it was at 70 billion, 72 billion. So, to me, like, and again, like total open interest when Bitcoin peaked was at 90, right? So to me, like, there's still a lot of leverage in this market. Like, we've wiped out like the most greedy apes, but there's still so much leverage in this market. Now, is it possible we re-leverage again? Yeah, it's definitely possible. But you could see, like, every time the market re-leverages, every time like we like push the boundaries of, oh, we're making new highs on open interest, like it's always like some sort of pullback, like follows soon after. So again, to me, like, not a great sign. Lastly, and I don't want to go through the comments here, but I'll just tell people, like, if you have the time, go look at this post that I made on Twitter. Like, go look at the past few posts I've made on Twitter, actually, and you'll see, like, people are, and I'm making like these like hyperbolic like bear posts, right? People are like freaking losing their minds about it, right? It just goes to show you the times. And I can tell you, like, at the FTX lows, if you were bull posting, you look like a fucking idiot, right? If you were at the FTX lows, if you were saying the market's going to go up, you look like a fool. Same thing at the 30K lows, by the way, like summer of 2021. So again, these are just considerations, and just like the reality of the market. Like at the tops, people get overly bullish. At the bottoms, people get overly bearish. Now, I don't want to make this video too long, so I'm just going to talk about what I think the market's going to do. I think there's a chance we get one more push up, but I think it's unlikely. I would be surprised if we run the highs. Like, this was like basically David Bailey top blasting. I don't know who the person's going to be that's going to allow this market to like top blast all the way back up. So I think this is unlikely. I think there's, like, I would say this is the lowest likelihood. I think there's a chance we end up like running these like lower highs and put in like a lower high here and then dump. And I think there's some chance that the market's just so weak and the reflexivity is just so done that the market just bleeds out. I don't know what's more likely between like the second and third option. I'll leave it up to you guys to figure that out. But again, I'm just not feeling great about the markets. I think ultimately there's been a lot of reflexivity and froth that's sort of built up. And so, yeah, overall, I'm feeling like we're probably going to go down. But again, we'll see what happens. Let's see how the price action develops, and we'll go from there. So anyways, guys, thanks for listening, and until next time, take care.